Innotribe, please welcome Senior Principal of Collective Next, Mr. Hamilton Ray.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another sold-out show at Innotribe. It's really overwhelming, the attendance we've had here. Thank you guys for coming. So we're here today to talk about the voice of the customer. And I'd like you to think about back when you all were kids, or maybe your parents were kids. You know the old suggestion box where somebody would fill out a form and you write it in, you'd stuff it in, and then who knows what happened to it? I saw a comic where there was a suggestion box next to a complaint box, and the complaint box is overflowing, and there's one piece of paper in the suggestion box, and someone pulls it out and says, you need a bigger complaint box. So that's if you think about how feedback has always come. We're going to look to the future and say, how are people, and we've got a brilliant panel up here, thinking about getting the voice of the customer in new ways. We're calling this Voice of the Customer 3.0. And how can that be fed into design better products, design better services, design better experiences, not only for customers, but also for employees and people who are working at these companies. So let me introduce our panelists here. We have Matthias Kroner. He's a CEO and a co-founder of Fedor Bank. Welcome, Matthias.
Good morning.
We have Steve Jennings. Are you related to Ken Jennings of the Jeopardy?
No.
So we talked about that earlier. We have Steve Jennings. He's the CIO of Better Ventures, and he's got a great presentation today as well. So welcome, Steve. And then finally, we have Jay Van Zyl, who is a founder and CEO of Innotribe. So Jay, welcome. So we have, yes, absolutely. And when you see his presentation, you will clap even more. So it's a great day. We're going to hear from each of these, and after each of our presentations, we'll have a little bit of time for some questions from you guys specifically, and then a broader question about how do we take this thinking and this methodology and start to apply it to banks, and what's the opportunity here for banks. So we're going to start off with Matthias from Fedor. Matthias, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Hamilton, for the introduction. Yes, the journey of Fedor Bank can be described actually as a journey listening to the customer, collaborating with the customer in order to set up a new way of banking, which we started back in the year 2009 and 2010. It's all about what the customer wants, is without any surprise the title of my presentation. So what does the customer want? First of all, back in the years when we founded that company, we had to think what has changed actually over the last decades and maybe centuries. So it's that we experienced Web 2.0 to be a channel actually to listen, first of all, to listen to the customer, to speak to the customer, to have a conversation. The hardware technology actually took it away then by the smartphones. The internet, of course, was prior to that development. So all in all, we found out that we have a technical environment that allows us strongly actually to communicate, to interact with the customer and to integrate this customer actually in the future development of the company. So permanent connectivity, believe me, doesn't make it easier. I have customers that contact me via Twitter at midnight and so on. But believe me, on the other side, they are surprised like in a positive way hell. Once the CEO feeds back at midnight, 5 minutes later saying, listen, we take care of that tomorrow morning. Believe me, the office is empty now, but I'll take care, they know about it. They tweet about it saying the CEO responded to my tweet at midnight. Can you believe it? You know? So that's one of the very positive developments we have there. On the other side, we have to talk about banking, guys, and we need to be brave now because nothing changed at all. But the ones who are here already realize that something needs to change, so I congratulate you to the step to come to Innotribe. What did not change is, of course, we know we have a lot of legacy systems we have to deal with. We have a lot of regulation we have to deal with. Regulation and legacy systems, by the way, are the most mentioned excuses to avoid innovation. Believe me, this is not right. That's wrong. It's just an argument, you know, but you could do innovation with a legacy as well and with regulation as well. At the same time, we have a very hierarchical thinking. We have not a long list of innovations at all. Let me point out, maybe out of my perspective, the major innovations we did in retail banking over the last 70 years. It's the card and the ATM. And then we have a little bit of web banking. That's it. That's not customer-centric. And all in all, out of all discussions I had also on Sibos here, the main issue is culture in the companies. It's the culture that makes it impossible to overcome that situation. It's not a surprise that we think and hear from customers, and we do not need to have a panel for that because we just listen to our customers in the community. And by the way, I heard a good phrase yesterday. There's a good reason why God gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth, actually, so concentrate on hearing. So we hear from our customers that they don't think that there's a difference actually from their bank to any other. This means obviously we all created institutions that have no brand recognition. We created institutions that have no USP. We created institutions that are as unique as a petrol station. That's scary, isn't it? At the same time, people want to have a money coach actually that is accompanying them in their financial day-to-day decisions, not only in the once-in-a-lifetime decisions, it's in the day-to-day decisions. And again, this is why it's good we have a mobile device, this is why we should have an operating system actually that supports that kind of data delivery, we will hear a lot about that later on, and decision making. So when we started our Fido journey, we thought about what is better banking, and I'm very sure you all say we deliver better banking. But let us concentrate on the definition of what is better banking. So we think once we started our company, we think first of all, better banking needs to be customer-centric. Maybe this is because I started my business life in the hotel industry. Can you imagine a hotel not being customer-centric? This is also service. We talk about hospitality service industry there. We are, all that we are in here, we are in the financial services industry. We are not in the financial customer disintegration industry. So it needs to be customer-centric first of all. No service without customer centricity. Imagine a hairdresser without a customer centricity. It needs to be by that integrative. You cannot deliver service without being integrative. Or try. Some of us try very strongly. You need to be open. If you want to be successful in a service industry, you need to be open in a cultural way on the one side. In our digital environment, you need to be technically open. This is why we talk about API banking. And you need to be efficient because it's not customer-centric that you demand your customers to move through the whole city in order to transport a loan application form to the bank. Which, by the way, is not mobile banking. This keeps me mobile banking. That's the difference. Fido today can be described as having more than 100,000 KYC customers in Germany and in England and in the UK. We have a community in which we listen to our customers with above 300,000 people being there registered. We are talking in all kind of innovative technical developments like blockchain, from blockchain to crowd finance to peer-to-peer lending. All this is integrated in our technical infrastructure, which is crucially needed that you have it. If you do not have the appropriate infrastructure, you will not be in the position to deliver digital and customer-centric banking. It will be simply impossible. And believe me, to the branch bankers amongst you, a digital experience is way superior in customer centricity than any branch I personally know. So this is a snapshot of our two-speed infrastructure. The one speed is the back ends. As you can see, we regard it to be a slower speed, and the high-speed infrastructure is what we, for that purpose, created it as Fido operating system. So it's banking with friends, that's what we call it. It's banking with friends because, as I mentioned, we set up the community, we talk to the people, we integrate them, we interact with them, and not only on a way that we say, listen, we do a lottery, you can win a coffee machine next week. That's not what we talk with them. We talk with them once we set up new pricings for products. Once we now entered the UK market, the first thing is, to the community, we spoke and said, listen, have a look to our pricings and interest rates. Do you like them or not? We got the feedback. Within 4 days, we changed the product and the pricing. We have a customer-driven pricing. Can you imagine? Isn't that freaky? You know, it works. If you treat your people, if you treat your customers like co-managers, they act as a co-manager. If you treat them like little kids, disintegratively, and tell them all the time, you're too stupid to understand my superior financial service, they act like that because they leave you alone then. 60-second banking, it's speed. If we talk about digital, we talk about speed. There's no reason to bore people. There's no reason to click 40 times for a loan application. People are spoiled by Google. Can you imagine? They're used to get a result in split seconds. Take a normal average banking experience, it takes you days to get a loan. Why? There's no reason. Overcome this. Deliver processes that are superior. Share the data you have. This is one snapshot out of a community. I know you take the photographs only because of Sophie, actually. She's our managing director in the UK. And this is her feeder Karma, actually, the community Karma, because there you can see how active she is in the community. There you can see how communicative she is, how sharing, how think leading, how opinion leading, and so on she is. This is what we share with the community. Why? Because talking to people in this environment means also to deliver trust. And trust needs to show actually who you are, how you behave, what you do. This is one part of it. The other part of it is that we are open, as I said. This is our future app store, actually, which allows us to integrate outside services into our account. Accessible via the API infrastructure. That's the technical openness I talk about. And as said, our core reason is that we are built, actually, Feeder, to solve the problems of our customers. This is not a bank that uses the customer to solve its own problems. That's a different perception, actually. So again, on the other side, in order to have a state-of-the-art technology, we have a developer community, 300 people active there talking about our API infrastructure. That's another way of listening to our customers and making it possible that they can create their own banking on our bank stack, actually. So this is exactly what we're here for. The outcome is very positive and promising. We have, I think, world-class KPIs. We run on a very low cost of customer acquisition, on average 20% of a normal high street bank. We have record low cost of IT per user and cost of operations per user. And also this is because we focus on the customer. We only try to build what the customer wants, and we are a digital company. And I do thank you for your attention.
Yes. So, going to open the audience for questions, and I'd like to start with a question, Matthias, if we could. So, let's see it. Nice. So, Tuesday we heard about digital natives, right? Millennials. I mean, one interesting thing was it's not just an age bracket; it's a mindset with millennials, and they wanted trust, they wanted engagement. So we saw the opportunity, the need, and it seems like you've solved a lot of that. But I'm sure it has not come without challenges. So I guess the first thing is, you know, for the big banks, what were some of the big challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them to be able to create what you just demonstrated?
I think, as I mentioned, the keyword, and I took it away also on this Sibos conference this year, the keyword we need to talk about is corporate culture. And corporate culture makes it possible or makes it impossible. If you have a corporate culture that is, for whatever, maybe good or bad reason, I don't know, avoiding innovation, having discussions why it's good not to do this, and so on, you never will think about what I just told you. If you have a corporate culture that allows risk, that allows maybe a failure, even being compliant, and even I can experience, I experienced a very open-minded regulator, by the way. Yeah, maybe this is the biggest news today. I experienced a very open-minded regulator that also gave me the feedback and saying, listen, for the first time, we as regulators, we are happy to talk to an innovative concept. Because for 50 years, we have to listen to saving and loans now. You know, once you have this culture, you can make it, first of all. Second, of course, operatively, it's always the toughest step to get the first 1,000 users in a community and make them active. But now, you know, since we prepared the field, actually, it took us in the UK, within 2 weeks, we had 2,000 users being active there. We have the first, I don't know, 1,000 KYC customers demanding our service and just saying, even if it's not complete, even if it's just 50% of what you deliver end of next year, we want to be there. And most recently, I did a demonstration, just clicked on a question by random in our community, and it turned out that there was a user asking, listen, folks in the community, Feeder is doing so much good to us. Let us think about what we can do for Feeder. Did you ever experience such a discussion with any other bank? I didn't.
That's great. All right. What about you guys? Do we have any questions here? We've got some mics. Anybody? Any questions for Matthias?
Ask me.
Come on. No one's got a question?
No, they're all insulted.
Here we go. Oh, we got it. Fantastic.
What are the demographics of your customers?
A very good question, because I think you would think they are younger. They are not. I would say, as you may know, that Germany is a very aging population, as you can see. It's maybe because we all drive Volkswagens. 1 year ago, there wouldn't have been a laughter, actually. Yeah, you know, we try to mess it up in all industries now. No, the demographics is actually very much in line with the normal distribution in the population. So the strongest age group currently is 40 to 50. Yeah. The second largest pillars are 30 to 40, and closely followed by the 50s to 60s. I can give you one highlight, which I love to share always, is the oldest customer that is a customer of Feeder and in the same time trading Bitcoins at an associated Bitcoin exchange is above 70. So it's what am I telling you? It's not about social demographics. It's about attitude and behavior. And we always do a segmentation in the markets by behavior, which also means, for instance, I frequently get the question, how do you try to convince an offline customer to come to you? And my straightforward answer is, I don't. I never experienced McDonald's starting in the market doing a vegetarian campaign.
Yeah. Great. You had a question here. Yeah, one more question for Matthias.
Matthias, I think I've studied your bank a little bit, and my question really is: you talked about legacy in your few initial slides.
Yeah.
You had a clean slate to start, which is a great advantage. But what would be your advice to traditional banks in terms of, because they were much bigger challenge in terms of managing the current assets, customers, and then getting, probably they're trying to get where you are already.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that problem?
Due to the fact that Feeder Tech company, which is a 100% subsidiary of Feeder Bank, actually is selling this technical proposition to other banks as well. Yeah. We get frequently confronted with this kind of situation. So first of all, the core banking stack we have is plain vanilla off the shelf. That's a very traditional piece which we licensed from a German local partner, and on top of this core banking, we fitted our operating system. So what we tried to achieve is a 2-layer architecture, actually, because we are convinced that we have not enough lifetime left, actually, to improve a core banking system. Despite the fact that anybody else in the room might disagree on this, this is my little Feeder learning. Do not want to kind of destroy any business fields. But on top of the core banking, which needs to be reliable, scalable, a proper connect to the local payment rails, accounting, regulatory reporting, everything else. On top of that, we put the customer experience and customer handling, customer engagement platform. Actually, Feeder operating system, by the way, I summarize as coded attitude. So we put this coded attitude layer on top of that. We know that we can connect it. We are core banking agnostic. We connected it already to 3 different core banking infrastructures, and the quickest one within 4 months. So once you ask me, would you change the existing bank into a digital bank, or would you set it up on a greenfield approach? Personally, I would go for the greenfield approach for the technical reason, but more for the cultural reason. Definitely more for the cultural reason, because it's absolutely necessary that you have the appropriate culture in this entity, which first of all is customer-centric, which first of all tries to solve the problems of the customers, and the second also is very digital, tech-driven, KPI-driven, very slim. You must imagine everything that we do with 130 people of staff. That's all everything I told you is done on that level.
Great. Great. Thanks, Matthias. All right. So we're going to hand it over to Steve from Better Ventures. And Steve, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Matthias. That segues nicely into what I'm about to share with everyone. So I'm going to kick this off with 3 questions, and I want you to keep these questions in mind as I share with you the slides and the story. So these are the 3 questions that I truly believe you need to be asking yourselves. Do you really know what your customers think about you? Do you know which customer emotions are key to your future growth? And who do your customers want you to become? And I think Matthias's talk this morning really sets the scene in terms of what we believe your customers would like you to become in the future. So I'm going to talk about a participation commerce system. I'm going to share with you 4 use cases that explain how participation commerce, how engagement within an organization and also outside an organization can create entirely new streams of revenue, new business opportunities, new use cases. So it is about reimagination of products, services, operations, and your KPIs. I think many companies are working with outdated KPIs. The KPIs are simply not relevant to the needs of both your customer and your employees. So we have this kind of the core of our participation commerce system is human intelligence. We lead with strategy. We lead with the people that design a participation commerce bespoke for a specific customer. We then have crowd intelligence. We are crowd platform agnostic. The layer that we've built, which is once again an API architecture, is agnostic to any crowd platform. We can integrate with any crowd platform. So if you're using a crowd platform, we can integrate with your crowd platform. If you're not using a crowd platform, the crowd platform is determined by the use case and needs of the customer. The world isn't looking for more crowd platforms. The world is looking for solutions that improve operations, employee engagement, and relationship with your customers on the outside. So the first example is what we call discovery. And probably one of the best examples of discovery that is out there, that is live, that has got significant traction is Lego. And you're probably wondering, what has Lego got to do with a bank? And Lego actually has an awful lot to do with business in terms of how Lego Ideas has created a whole new world of opportunity for Lego. So what Lego have is a platform that is a persistent crowdsourcing solution. This platform is there all the time. They don't post challenges. The platform is there, the platform is open, and the platform enables anyone at any given time to submit a new product idea to Lego. And those new product ideas are then upvoted by the community. When they reach 10,000, they then go through a process of filtering, and ideas that make the cut, they become products, and those products come to market. And I'll touch on that in a little while in terms of what the impact of that really means to Lego and what it's opened up in terms of the way that they're thinking about their business model. So then we have collaborative. And a really good example of collaborative is what we're working on with Unilever Ideas, Foundry Ideas. So they do kind of the opposite to Lego. They post challenges. They have specific challenges. And they're basically reaching out into the community of hackers, makers, social entrepreneurs, and encouraging them to provide and submit new solutions to problems and challenges that Unilever are out there in the world trying to solve. Some of these ideas lead to product solutions, some of them lead to societal solutions, some of them are about leveling up the base of the pyramid to become, the emerging middle class and the next wave of potential consumers. And then we have internal. Internal is really quite interesting. And some of the clients that we're working with, I can't kind of talk about what we're doing because of confidentiality. But a really good example of internal is the use case of KPMG. And we are working with KPMG on an internal initiative right now with HSBC Bank. But KPMG themselves set a really good internal, it was a challenge for their employees and their partners. They asked for 10,000 contributions of a story. What does it mean to you to be part of KPMG? They got 47,000 stories. 47,000 people submitted a story about what life at KPMG means to them. From those stories, KPMG were able to really think about the purpose and the mission of their entire organization. It really enabled them to re-architect employee engagement in a very, very significant way. And then external, this is a really interesting use case. This is the IKEA hacker space. This initially had nothing to do with IKEA. IKEA initially, when they realized what was going on, they tried to shut this down. But what they've now realized is that there is a huge community out there of hundreds of thousands of people that are taking IKEA products and turning them into something very, very cool. Some of these products are now getting pulled into the IKEA system and are becoming new products in their product range. This is really quite remarkable. These are people that are not on their radar. These are people that don't work for an agency. These are people that are passionate and advocates of the brand that realize the products can do different things. This is how Lego Ideas began. It began with external people hacking and doing cool things with Mindstorms and with Lego, and Lego realized that we needed to make this part of our ecosystem and leverage this huge amount of energy and talent and passion that is out there. So that's our approach is very, very simple, but under the hood, there's a lot of complexity going on. The cognitive AI component is part of what we're developing, the kind of the program around that and the solution around that with IBM Watson. So this is basically the flow. It is a very, very simple flow. You have the crowd. The crowd could be external, but it could be internal. It can be your employees. Ideas and content is submitted into an interface. That interface and that user experience is custom designed and custom built, depending on what the needs are and what the objectives are. Data, there is huge amounts of very rich data that's been created by doing this. This is data that isn't coming. This isn't social data. This is contextually relevant, use case specific data that's coming from the conversations around the contributions. It's very rich, it's precision accurate, and it's incredibly valuable, the data that's being created. The trick is to have the tools that enable you to extract the foresights and the behavioral analytics from that data based on the use case and based on your objectives within the organization. So we have experts, we have cognitive AI, it goes through that filter, it then goes through an ideas content insights process, and from that, the ideas are either implemented internally or they're implemented externally. And the objective with participation commerce is really to do two things. It's to increase revenue, decrease costs, and the third thing is to significantly improve employee engagement. In the US, employee engagement is costing business $450 billion a year, and according to Gallup, 70% of your employees are simply not engaged. They come to work every day, you're paying them quite a lot of money, but they're not engaged. If you can change that and get your employees to be much more engaged, you're unlocking an incredible asset that you have. You have two assets right now, your employees and your customers. Things like the blockchain are far out. They're not assets. You have the two primary assets, employees and your customers, and you need to nurture them and really think about the relationships that you need to develop and have going forwards. So we sit in the enterprise layer of an organization. We're an API-structured architecture, but we sit in the enterprise. We touch the entire enterprise, from procurement, supply chain, HR, your customers, services, logistics, communications, and employees. So that's kind of the place where we sit. We're not a campaign. We're not something that is nice to have. We're as pivotal as CRM, as HR, as what it is that makes and creates your enterprise stack. So Lego have proven the model. Lego have been on a tremendous journey of learning. And as Matty has said, you have to listen. You have to accept that this is a journey and the journey unfolds. And it's the listening that enables you to really understand how to set the course and direction for your entire enterprise. That doesn't come from the blockchain. It comes from your employees, your customers, and the needs of the market. So Lego have got 1 million participants. They took 5 products to market in 2014. And they've generated to date north of $55 million, which is quite remarkable, really. So you can have a future lab like Lego today. It is a mindset. It's a culture. It's not rocket science. It's not a technology. It starts with a way of thinking, and it starts with a culture. So a network gives you reach, but most importantly, a community gives you power. And you need that power. You have the community already in place. It's being able to have the interface that unlocks the power and harnesses the potential of these communities that you already have, employees and customers. You need to tap into that because that is where your future growth is going to be coming from. Thank you very, very much.
Right, great job. Thank you, Steve. So think about a question. I'm going to start with one. You talked about IKEA, Lego. If I'm a bank and I've had the good fortune to call you and you say, let's work together, how do I need to start thinking about adopting some of these things in banking?
It really does come down to the conversations that are taking place inside of the organization. It is about culture change. It's about a top-down, bottom-up. The meeting of the bottom, which are your for some of you, tens of thousands of employees, and your senior leadership. And really creating the story around who you are, your purpose, your reason for being. What is it that you need to focus on? What is the core of your business? How did you get to where you are today? What brought you to where you are today? And really being able to understand that in a very intimate way and then building on that. So the best way to begin is to begin internally, is to do something that is within your organization, that is very contained, that is secure, that is private, that enables you to start the journey and begin the learning and listening process.
Great. Do we have any questions from the audience here? Somebody want to? There in the back, of course, I'm holding the mic all the way up here. 1 second. Somebody over here think of a question next. All right.
Hi, I'm Tony Veerasinger. I was in a corporate world, didn't like it, moved away. One of the problems is all of us. We expect the companies to basically give revenue. So their focus on the stock market, for example, find a way to find shortcuts to make your quarterly numbers. Otherwise, we penalize them. Bad company didn't make the numbers. So when they really need to do core values to get something going, we, on the other hand, stand on this side and penalize them saying, where is your numbers? I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. So what is your advice to how for them to overcome this, to take the advice of coming into the community?
Yeah, I think the example of Lego is a really good learning for all of you. When Lego began this journey, it wasn't about the numbers. They've pivoted into a model that they realize can now be a growth engine for them. And I think that's really, really important. We talk about participation commerce, not crowdsourcing. It has to be something that is driving business growth. The way to drive business growth is to care about your employees and your customers and let them know that you really care. They need to be part of the solution. They need to be active participants in what you're in moving the business forwards. They need to have an opportunity to share in the success. So Lego, they share a percentage of the revenue from the products that are being brought to market via people that have submitted an idea. They have a revenue share. That's really important. That revenue share can be money, it can be something else. The example of KPMG is that you submit a story and we'll give you two days holiday extra. You get 2 days holiday. Some of these things can be quite small. Some of these things can be quite significant. A really good example right now is the UBS Future of Finance Challenge, which is still ongoing, but the UBS Future of Finance Challenge is about attracting entrepreneurs that have got new ideas around what banking could look like. And the incentives are very much about becoming a UBS partner, there's money, but part of it is becoming part of the UBS ecosystem so that we can help you get to market. There isn't one way to do this. It depends on the organization, depends on the culture, depends on the use case. And it depends on how you want to be perceived both within the organization and outside of the organization. But let's not forget, this is participation commerce. It's an engine that ultimately is going to drive business growth. But there are just other ways of being able to do that.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Jay, but we'll say if you have a question for Steve, you will have a chance to ask in a second. So let's thank Steve again. Great. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Jay, I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. So we are a Silicon Valley company that focuses on a concept called computational social science. Essentially means that we've figured out that when you look at technology and you apply certain algorithms using social sciences, that you might find some answers you never thought were possible before. And that's really been the focus of the last 2 years of inventions that we work on. It all starts with trying to understand how humans and how people make choices. The choices that you make daily in the context of you acquiring product, of you traveling somewhere, of you going to a certain restaurant, the kind of food that you eat, all the things that you do in your daily setting. And then trying to figure out how that social structure is formed based on these decisions that you've made. Now we do it based on a number of different graphs. First graph that you already know is a social graph. You know that Facebook has been trying to connect humans with humans on the planet. They managed to convince a few billion to do that. And through that exercise, we obviously learned a huge amount around how people do things, because we now know how they connect. The next graph is we'll be trying to figure out how we bring knowledge together. And that means that Google figured out that it's not just about the narrative, it is about the meaning of the narrative. It's when you connect the narrative with a human at a certain location and in a certain context, you'll be able to build out some sort of recommendation that is the search result. The economic graph is built by LinkedIn. How do companies and employees and people connect around the world, and how do they move? And do we know why they move from one place to another? Do we understand the reasons why they move? We're working on a concept called the idea graph. And the idea graph basically is trying to understand why and how humans connect to all of the things around them, especially their ideas. And why would they respond well to one idea rather than another? So that means that if you're going to acquire a product on a Monday morning in a certain part of the world, what's the reason for you doing that? We've constructed an architecture that basically tries to understand all the parts of the world that you've got no control over, weather patterns and the like, all the way through to your immediate world, the world that you construct for yourself. And the thing that you construct for yourself are the votes that you've done earlier or the votes you're going to express later, the reason for attending an event like this. So it's not just about data, and especially not big data. For us, it's about value data. We've got too much of it. There's too fragmented. We know we talk about structured and unstructured, but it means still that you have to make sense of it. And you have to make sense of it based on a business plan and a business model that you're playing out at a point in time. So what are those scenarios? How do you know what you need to do next? And we've been working on figuring out how we bring algorithms to bear to be able to solve a lot of these issues, and especially in the context of value data. The thing with algorithms is that they are vast. You've got algorithms across many different places, and you hear the word being used, and you obviously don't understand all of the implications of it. We're trying to make sense of some of it. And listening to IBM earlier was great, because we're trying to find implementations of these various types of ways by which we can take this data and make it happen. We use patterns to do that. So that means we understand multidimensional data. We slice it vertically and we slice it horizontally, if that makes any sense. And then we're trying to figure out why you would buy a pink shirt on a Monday morning in New York, but you normally buy that in San Francisco. Growth opportunity is one of the cases I want to tackle first. And let's talk about customer intimacy and trust. We took banking complaints from around the world, and we were trying to understand why people complain about certain things, certain time of the year and not other times of the year. We wanted to understand what happens before and after Thanksgiving. We wanted to understand what kind of transactions happened. We wanted to understand the personality and the data. One of the cases we looked at was to understand credit card transactions and understand why you would like and not like certain things, certain time of the year. So we're essentially building a graph that is trying to create a continuum. All the things that you do not like against the things that you do like. And everything in between means that you can be surprised with invention. You love novelty. You want new things to be sprung on you from time to time. And that means that you need to look at things very differently than what you used to. You need to slice the data differently, but you need to have a social angle onto the data, and that's really what we've been looking at. Can you take a social science view and make sense of that data? Once you have done that and you understand this ecosystem, you've taken your algorithms that are mostly social, you now want to make sure that you can find an implementation for it. And you want to get a place where you know that you can then roll it out so you can do your own tests. What we've been doing in the US is trying to understand the East versus West Coast. And for those who know in banking, the San Francisco versus New York debate, or any of the East-West Coast drivers were much bigger than we initially thought. As soon as you drill down on the data, you could see that certain kinds of clothes, certain kinds of food, certain kinds of cars, certain kinds of financial services are complained about and are loved by certain consumers at different times of the year in different regions. So picture yourself sitting in front of a dashboard saying that I want to run a scenario. Before I launch a product into the market, can this company give me an answer as to if it's possible? The next case is called Innovation for Jobs, and we'll talk about it again later as well. And the concepts around trying to understand an ecosystem. What we did is we mapped out the ecosystem in Silicon Valley, and we wanted to understand where original narrative comes from. You all use the word artificial intelligence. You all use the word big data. You use these kind of phrases. Who used them? Where did they come from? Do you want to create your own phrase? Do you want to educate your clients on certain things? So we've collected a bunch of these network data. We've mapped it. We try to understand socially why they are related and essentially built multidimensional networks around why certain ideas flow and do not flow. The plan behind this is to understand over time what artificial intelligence will mean to us. And you'll see later in the day we're going to talk a little bit about that. We do know that it's a very, very crucial topic. And you see that the topic as it played out came up with three major themes that we've just tracked recently. One is a thing called collective intelligence. And that means that in that collective intelligence, what's the role of the human? The second thing is big data analytics. And it basically just means that there's so much data across so many fronts. What can I do with it as an enterprise or as an individual to make my life better? The third one is artificial intelligence. It's been around for a long time, but we're now seeing it getting a touchdown. We're now seeing that the tools and that the methods and the technologies are at a scale where you can truly automate this. What we've been doing is creating a dashboard and essentially a series of tools. And the plan is that if you want to test certain kinds of actions and you want to do A/B tests on product, you want to understand socially if an idea is going to work or not, we build out these scenarios with you. We figure out what kind of value data you would need, and we essentially generate a set of recommendations. If you want to see the graphs that you saw earlier, we know some clients get scared when they see complex data structures. You want to make them simple. So you want to get to a point where you get an SMS in the morning to say, you should be doing this. Comes back to choices. What kind of choices are you going to make today? And do you have the right social data to be able to make those choices? The way we do it is across these four pillars. Firstly, understanding the ecosystem, because we don't understand markets, we understand ecosystems. That means how people behave in human structures. Value data, not big data. So that means making sense of what you can use at what point in time. using the right kind of algorithm for the right kind of output is probably the most crucial thing that you're going to have to consider in the space over time. And then lastly, the thing that you need that's going to make all of this work is the right kind of action at the right kind of time. So we've been bringing a number of these elements together to make this work for us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Jay. Excellent. All right, so if you have a question for Jay, think about it. I'm going to start with one. Data was throughout all of that, and with data comes privacy concerns, and I think especially in banking, right? So what's your perspective on that, and is it something to be concerned with, or what do you think?
I think we probably have to be concerned, but we've been doing the Facebook test recently, and it goes something like this. And can I do this? I want to do the test for the audience, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
How many people have participated in Facebook in the last 20 days? How many people here have read the license agreement in the last 365 days? 1, 2. That's awesome.
3.
Oh, we got one more. So for those who have not read the license agreement, can I maybe just give you some insight into what you have agreed to? You've essentially agreed to the fact that getting access to a large global social structure and a data set and being able to share all the things that you have contributed, you have essentially relinquished all of your controls of all the things that you put onto the platform. And you've agreed to that unilaterally. And in Facebook's agreement is pretty clear because it says that all data added to our platform sits in California. All data can be exploited economically in any way we see fit, and you've got no recourse as an individual. All copyright is transferred to us unilaterally, so if you want to sue us, you've got no chance. So essentially, you take control of all of that. What's busy happening, we find, is that humans are being educated that they're willing to trade decision-making, access to decisions, access to all the benefits around the data sets in return for some privacy or less privacy. Doesn't mean in the banking world it's different. It just means that what we're very sensitive to is what the bank feels must be sensitive against what cannot be sensitive or is not sensitive.
Right.
Bringing those together gives us, I think, the power that we've been working on, is saying that as soon as you have a multidimensional sort of view, then you see something different. So I think it is a challenge, but we are being educated that we're willing to trade. So
Fantastic.
okay.
Any other questions from the audience on Jay? You're still blown away by the presentation, how he kept the timing, everything, because I know I was. You left no question unanswered there, Jay. All right, so let's open up the floor to all of you. Let's give Jay a round of applause, because that's fantastic. So we got about 10 minutes left here, and now I would like to open the floor for any questions or comments. So any questions for Matthias, Steve, the panel in general, as we think about Voice of the Customer 3.0 and really changing the way that we engage with customers in banking? We've got a question right here.
Thank you. I wonder how the demographics looks like at Feeder Bank. We've talked about your customers, so I wonder how it's inside, how is this reflected?
Actually, we had the question before already. Doesn't matter. It's elder than you might think, which I think is very much related to the German demographics of an aging society. I'm happy that you rephrased the question because it gives me some leeway actually to explain it a little bit. It depends really very much on the products actually. We have in our analytics, we can see what kind of a social demographics is using what kind of a product. So of course, which is natural, we see that the products related to savings and investments are more by the elder ones of our customer group, but the more it's getting to current account and cash and management and cards handling, it's more like the very younger customer group. On the other side, I can tell you that the social media channels are very different. The users we have outside of our own proprietary community in our social media profiles are differing totally to the channels. So in all, Facebook is 10 years younger than for instance, YouTube as a channel. Nevertheless, given the fact that for the very young ones, Facebook is dead already. So you need to be on Snapchat and something like that. And just think about that. It's an upcoming challenge is how to listen to your customers on Snapchat. Okay. Once you have a very agile discussion going on there, not very sustainable. And, that's a new challenge then.
So, Steve, I have a question for you. So,
You
and
got
it's sort
cut off, you know.
oh, sorry.
It's the voice of the customer, not your voice.
The question was actually, how is your employees?
The employees.
Yes.
I misunderstood
very
it.
interesting.
Did he say the customer? He said the employee. Oh, goodness.
You're not listening to your customers.
No, that's right. That's right. We have a chat on that.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to hear it because I thought I did not fully answer the customer question. You know, that's it. Oh, the employees. I would say I'm one of the older ones. Tough to say that, but I am. We have meetings in which I'm really clearly the oldest one, which means I'm close to 50 now. The staff is in average around 30, 35.
And how many coming from banking, also with a banking background, and how many coming from just fintech or externals or startups?
So, as mentioned, the structure is, I'm really embarrassed that I did not rightly answer the first question. The structure is the bank as one entity and the tech on the other side. We experienced this as a good structure because you have to have specific cultures in both bodies. And by that I answer that already. We have a very strong banking focus in the bank from the skill set. But nevertheless, we try to follow the golden rule, which is elder than the internet, which is buy attitude and train skills. So even being a compliance officer at Feeder means you have to understand what the innovative mindset is that we need to service on our customer side. You have to understand what it means to service a community. You have to understand what it means to integrate outside app supplying partners into our account and infrastructure. On the other side, at the tech environment, you have to understand, like Stefan, who was giving a presentation here about the API environment, the tech geek needs to understand banking, and the tech geek needs to understand regulation. So we need mentally to bridge our worlds. And I think this is the biggest challenge we have.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I would like to see your innovative regulatory compliance officer. It would be the first time.
No, I don't make a contact because I'm afraid he gets hired away straight away. You know, so,
We have a question here, Srindar.
So a question for you. You're building on Watson and Cognitive. What services are you using? And what would you like to see more that could make what you're doing better?
That's a really good question. Right now, we're in the preliminary stage of doing the design with one of our partners. I can't tell you who the partner is, but it is one of those companies that I shared with you around the use cases. And really for us, the objective with Watson is to understand the value that can be created by integrating with Watson. So for us, we've made a number of critical assumptions, and the work that we're about to embark on with Watson, which is going to begin this month, is to validate those critical assumptions. What is the value of cognitive AI in the context of our business model, and what value can we create for our clients using Watson? And there's a high probability that out of this, a new Watson API will be created.
Yeah, great. Anyone else? Jay, I have a question for you. So, as your customers, and I don't know how many banks you're working with, try to sort of adopt this and make this part of their day-to-day, your insight. I mean, how do they do that? How can companies sort of bring that in and actually start to really, really use it in a practical way? Are you seeing that?
Yes, maybe one case to talk about is, we've had clients use it on both sides of the product development cycle in banking. One is, before I launch a product, have I taken the assumptions that we've developed internally and the business model and the approach we normally follow internally, have we used that exact method before? And we find that clients would normally just repeat the same approach. And I think what's happening now, because you've got so many different angles that you have to consider to be able to test if it's going to work, they want to know what kind of output would it look, or what kind of product would be successful based on what kind of output that we produce. So is it a marketing campaign? Is the product launched at a certain time of the year? What kind of demographic would normally be using it, rather than looking at it as a market? So what it ends up looking like is that you have like 200, 300, 400 ideas, and you want to validate those ideas fairly quickly. We build out a model, and actually, in fact, we use some of Watson's services as well to be able to determine the sentiment, the emotion, and so on. And we then essentially build a graphical model around that. The flip side is once a product has been launched and it fails, we've had some interesting tests around that as to why it did not work the way we intended it to work. And that seems to be the one that we've had more interest in than doing it before the time, because I think you have to make the assumption that it's always worked, so it's going to work again. And then when it doesn't work, we've had clients come to us and say, well, I don't understand why this didn't work in that particular setting. And we then run scenarios with them and build out models to show why it did not work.
Great. Yeah, there in the back.
Hi, I have a question for Matthias.
Okay.
Recently in the Netherlands, a new bank, online bank, was introduced, and they are all about engaging customers. Can you tell me something about how your customers introduce new customers to your bank? Do you have a program for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have with the community comes a loyalty scheme, and the loyalty scheme is rewarding social interaction. And this is not only rewards for recommendation, but this is also giving rewards for placing a comment. So our customers in the community get some sense for placing a question, which is totally new, because I should have shared that earlier, shouldn't I? Because this is really very good question. You get the money for that. So no, we are the first banking concept that gives a customer some sense of money for asking us or the community something. This itself is a mind-breaking situation. This itself should encourage people to talk about their money issues, ask the community in order to get a better understanding about your personal financial situation. In this program, so of course you get some money for the answer, of course you get money if you rate a product, if you rate an advisor, if you whatever do which is valuable, we give you a little bit of money. Doesn't make you independent rich, but it's an acknowledgement. This is what it is about. The future idea we have is that we integrate a button on the comments into your question on the answers, and the button will say send you instead. This is not German English, it's on purpose. It should be related to thank you, but it's called send you. And you just click on this button once you think this was a very good answer to my question. You click on send you, and in the background it's a closed loop transaction of 50 cents of saying thank you to this person who was giving you this specific answer. Again, it's an acknowledgement. Within this bonus and loyalty scheme, we have the program that we give you €5 of recommendation. No, €5 for recommendation. I can tell you that 30% of our customer base approximately is coming because of word-to-mouth propaganda. And if you recommended a person to become a member of Fido community and Fido customer, you will have what we learned from the multi-layer marketing organizations, because once you make €100 bonus this year, congratulations, I get 7% out of his on top of his bonus actually, because I recommended this person for this community. So there's also an economical benefit, at least a little bit, that you try to win people to this community.
Great. Steve, a quick...
I just want to make a comment. What Matthias has just sketched out is participation commerce.
Yeah.
That is a participation commerce use case. This is not rocket science. It's about the design. It's about how do you design these things? How do you implement them? Where do you start? What is the use case? This is not rocket science. It's why we have to lead with strategy. The technology is the enabler, but you have to lead with human brain power to design the use case. But Matthias has just sketched out a very elegant financial services, banking, participation commerce use case.
Great. So, unfortunately, we are out of time here. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, I'm going to speak over this, though. Please check out Fedor Bank. Find Matthias. You have more questions for him. Matthias, thank you so much for that. A round of applause. Steve just barely scratched the surface on what they're doing over at Better Ventures, so please seek him out. Please check out Better Ventures. Steve, thank you so much. Jay actually will be back at our next session, but Innosect is doing great work. Check them out. Check out Jay and his work there. So a round of applause for Jay. Speaking of, our next session is at 12:45 back in here. It is on thinking machines and disrupting unemployment. So I really encourage you guys to go get some lunch.
Sounds interesting.
Come back at 12:30 to get a seat, and we'll start at 12:45. Rate the session, please, when you leave. Thanks, guys.